Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is Jason, and this is part 2 of our React book cards project. And so for this video, today we're going to build out the books component and also the search area component. So we're going to build those two components, and we're also going to make a request to the Google Books API so we can actually get some data on the page. So let's get into it. So first thing, before I begin, I just wanted to make a quick note that in our header.js from the previous video, if you noticed, you might have noticed that there's an error in our console, so invalid DOM property class. So in React, whenever you add a class to your HTML elements, in React you have to use class name, but React is smart enough to know, I guess, what you meant by that. But we'll go ahead and fix that real quick, so now we won't get that error. And so now let's get into the project. And so what we want to do first is we want to create the books component. So our books component is going to contain the state and the logic for our application. And it's also going to render out two components here, which is search area and book list. And today we'll just focus on the search area part. And let's see. So let's go ahead and create our component. So in here we'll just do books.js, and since this component is going to contain some logic and some state, we will go ahead and make it a class component. So we'll copy this and we'll just delete out some things we don't need. So we'll do books and we'll call this export books. And we can remove this. Alright. Okay, save that. Alright. So right now we just have a basic setup of our books component. Let's go ahead and add it to our app component. So we'll just do import books from, let's see, books, and we will go ahead and add it under here. So books, and there we go. So let's make sure we don't have any errors. Everything looks good. Awesome. Alright. And so now, so we have our books component set up, basic structure. Let's go ahead and create our search area component now. So for our search area component, we'll do search area.js. Let's see. Oh, I might have already created it beforehand. Yeah, let me just delete this one out. So we'll create it from scratch. And so we'll do search area.js, and with this one, it's going to be a functional component. So we'll go ahead and copy the structure for our header, and we'll do copy that in, and we'll just refactor it. So this will be called search area. It's going to export out search area. Alright. And alright, so I'm going to have a div, and I'll give it a class name of search area. And in here I will make a form tag, and in there I will, and in here I will add in our input of type text. So we're adding a form tag, so that way when the user will click enter or submit, it'll go ahead and make our request. And so let's see. So we have input there. That looks good. So now in our books component, we want to render it out in here. Because if you remember, books will render out search area and book list. So search area. So we'll go ahead and import our search area, from search area. Alright. Awesome, that looks good. Now we will just go ahead and add it in here and save that. Alright, everything looks good to me, so I think if we go back now, we don't have any errors. Alright, so we have our text input here. Let's also add in a button. Forgot to do that. So button, and we'll do a type equals submit, and we'll just give it a search there. Alright, and I already have some styles here pre-made. I can show you the styles here a little bit later. So for now, this is what we have, an input box with a search button. And now let's go into our books component, and let's start creating the state and some of the logic that we'll need to make our request to the Google Books API. And so for our books component, what I want to do first is create so we'll need to do a constructor call, so constructor, and then in here we'll do props, and we'll do, whoops, got some funky stuff here. Alright. So we'll do super, and then here we'll do props, and now we'll create our state. So for now, I will do this dot state equals, let's see. So for our application, it's going to contain, we know it's going to have, books, data of books. So we'll just have books here, whoops, books, and for now we'll just have an empty array. And another thing I want to add to my state is a property called search field. And so the reason I'm adding a search field here is because I want to update the state of my application while every time I'm adding to the input box. So basically, when I'm typing in here, so let's say I'm going to search for like dogs, every time I type in this input box, I want to make sure my state gets updated with whatever is inside this search field. So we'll do DOGS. So whenever I type that in, I want to make sure my state contains the search field of dogs, which is what I have typed in here. So that way when we make our request, our state will already contain the search field, will already contain whatever we typed in the input box, which in this case, it's named search field. And sweet, okay. So let's go ahead and add the functionality for updating the state for every time we type in this input box. So let me format this real quick. Alright. And so I'll just create a method in here in our books component. So I'm going to call this method, let's see, handlesearch. Set that equal to, alright, so if we have our method here, handlesearch, and what this handlesearch method is going to do is basically going to set our state every time we type into the input box. And so what I'll do is I'll do this dot set state, and then I will do let's see, this dot set state search field equal to, oh sorry, I forgot something. So I need to have I'll add in the property or the parameter e. So what this refers to is event. So every time we type into the input box, we're going to get this parameter. We're going to get this parameter, which is going to be the event. So we're going to do e.target.value. So every time we type in to this input box, it's going to fire an event, and so we're going to grab that event through here. So that's what this e will refer to, and it's going to have some properties. So it's going to be e.target.value, which value will be the letter that we typed in here, or whatever key that we entered. So that's how we do that. So let's see. Alright, so this dot set state search field to e.target.value. Alright, so now how do we implement this method? So what we want to do is we want to pass this method into our search area component. That way our search area will have access to this function. And so we're going to pass it in as a prop. And whenever you're going to pass in something as a prop, you can just give it whatever name you want into the component. So in this case, I'll just give it the same name as the method. So we'll do handlesearch. So that'll be the prop name. And then do some curly braces there, and we'll do this dot handle search. So this dot handle search will grab our handle search method. And now let's go into our search area, and let's see here. And so what we want to do here is in our search area component, in our parameters, we're going to do props, so that way we can access the props that were passed down from our books component. And on our input, we're going to add the on change property, so we'll do that. So on change, so every time this input has someone types into the input, this on change will fire off whatever we passed it, or whatever we passed in here. So in this case, remember, we have our method that we want to fire off whenever somebody types in the input box. So we'll just do props dot handle, let's see, what was it called again? Handle search. So this props dot handle search, because remember we passed in this prop name handle search, so that's what we will type in here. So props dot handle search, and let's see, so input on change. All right, awesome. So now every time we type into this input box, it's going to fire off our handle search method, which we defined over here. And when this fires off, it's going to set the state and set the search field property here equal to whatever we type in the input box. And so we can actually see this. We'll go ahead and console.log. Let's see. Target.value. So we can go ahead and actually see that this is working. So whenever I type in this input box, we should see the console.log. So there we go. So as you can see, every time I'm typing in this input box, it's outputting the whatever value we're typing. And let's see. So awesome. So now we know that that works. So whenever we type in, it's going to set our state to whatever we're typing in the input box. So we're good there. Whoops. Sorry about that. All right. And okay, let's see here. So now that we have that finished, we will now go ahead and add in the functionality to make our request to the Google Books API. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to import a package via npm. And so I'll just go into my directory, cd projects, cd book project. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import a library, and it's going to be called SuperAgent. So SuperAgent is just a HTTP library where we can make requests to third-party APIs. And so I'm going to do npm install -- save SuperAgent. And so we can also use the fetch request API, I believe it's what it's called. So it's already built into the browser. But I'm going to use SuperAgent because I really like how easy it is to make requests, and it's really simple. So we'll go ahead and use that for now. So we'll just wait for this to import. It's taking a little bit. Let's see. Alright, so while that's importing, in the meantime, I will go ahead and create our second method that we need to create in order to make our request to the Google Books API. Let's see here. And so Yeah, so what we're gonna do is let's see, we're gonna create a method called let's call this handle search book. So we'll just call this method search book, and we'll do all right, cool. So we have search book, and let's see. So now what we want to do is we want to, let's see. All right. So now that we have it imported, we'll go ahead and import that into our file here. So we'll do, I'll call this request from, let's see, super agents. All right. And so the way we're going to make this request is we just need to do request dot, do it this way, dot get, and in here we will just pass in the URL that we're gonna make our request to. So if we go into here, I should have the URL for our books API. Find it real quick. Alright, here it is. Alright, so with this URL we can make a basic search, so we'll just need to have HTTP, so we'll just need to make a request to this URL, and then for our parameters we'll just have to have a Q equals and whatever search term we want to pass in. And so if I just paste this into my URL real quick, and for our search term, let's just put JavaScript. And so if we click enter, as you can see, we'll get a list of a JSON data of all these books that are related to JavaScript. And so this is what we're going to do, but inside our React project. And so in here, get, we're going to just paste in this URL, but I'm going to remove this query, so now we only have that. And then with super agent you have this handy method called query, and then you pass in whatever query you want to pass to make your request. And so remember, we need to do a queue, and then what we're going to do in here is we're going to go into our state and grab our search field property, because that's going to contain whatever search our user made to look for whatever book they wanted. So we'll do this dot search field, and let's see, so we got that, and now we'll do a dot then, pass in our callback, and we'll just console.log our data. And we'll pass in data there. Alright. Awesome. And so now we want to, like we did with handle search, we want to pass in our search book method into our search area component, so that way we can use it. So we'll do search book, so we're passing in a prop called search book, and inside here it will contain the search book method. So we'll do this dot search book right there. And now in our search area component we want to use this. So what we'll do is on our form tag we're gonna make use of this on submit property. So whenever the user submits the form or makes a search, we will fire off our method. So we'll do props dot search book. Let's see, I think that's what it was. Alright, search book, awesome. Alright, so I think we are good now. Yeah, everything looks good. So let's go ahead and see if this works. Let's look at our console, see if we have any errors. Alright. So whenever we make a search in here and we click search, we should see some data in the console. Let's see, so we'll do dog, and let's do dogs. Search. Let's see. Alright guys, my mistake. I forgot to add a little thing in here. So since we are actually making use of a form HTML tag, what we want to do is we want to actually every time when we submit the form, we want to do this e.preventDefault, so that way we can stop the form from trying to make some request to a server. Since we don't have a server, we don't need to make use of that. And so now that I have that in there, and I have this .state.search field for our query, let's go ahead and see what we have in our console. So we'll do dogs, submit, and as you can see, we have a response here. And let's look in here. And so with this response object, we want to make use of this body, and in here is going to contain the data we actually want. So it's going to be called items, and in here we have about 10 objects of books related to, I guess, dogs. And so we have access info. Cool. So we're going to make use of all that data. Let's see if there's anything else we need to do. Let's see, search. Yep, so I think that'll be a good stopping point for today. So we basically created our two other components. We made our books component and our search area component. In our books component, we created some state and also some methods that we passed down as props to our search area. So that way, whenever we typed into the input box, we would fire off those methods we created to update our state, and also when we ever submitted the form, we made our AJAX request to the third-party Google API Books API. So yep, so I think that would be a good stopping point. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for part 3, where we'll create our book list component and our book card component. And yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content, go ahead and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Alright guys, well, thanks for watching. Have a good one.